Folks, welcome back to Tabletop Tactics with myself, Lawrence, and Mike, aka Spider and Chef. And today we're talking about those dusty Marines. The dustiest. It's the Thousand Sons.
Yay! Dusty boys.
Indeed.
The 15th Legion.
These are the top 5 changes from the 8th edition Codex to now the brand new sparkling 9th edition Codex. Thank you to Games Workshop for sending us a copy of this for preview.
Tomb of Knowledge.
So here are our top 5 changes. So the order of attack for this new revamped faction focus is thus. We're going to go over the army special rules.
Yes.
We're going to go over the super
doctrine. So the pure army rules.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to go over the chapter tactics, you know, that equivalent thing. So in this case, it will be your Cabbalistic
we call them that because they were the first one.
Indeed. Yeah. And then we're going to go over the statistic changes, if any, and then we'll go over some of those points as well. Sound good? I know it does.
Yes,
So
yes,
let's
it does.
get into this. All right.
I'm just checking out my Tomb of Knowledge here, you see.
Oh, yes.
Lots of sneaky bits.
Lots of sneaky bits.
Yes. So, army rules. So, a bit of a revamp here with the Thousand Sons. Brotherhood of Sorcerers has changed pretty significantly. Previously, it was plus 6-inch range, which was nice. Plus 6-inch range to all your psychic powers, 24-inch range smites, like extra inch range on your your buffing powers. It gave you good flexibility. However, it is now plus 1 to cast, which is a pretty potent change.
Right, you've basically stolen it from the Grey Knights. You've taken it for yourself.
Yeah, it's a massive change. It's an appropriate one.
Yeah.
And it is.
They are the Thousand Sons.
And it is a very powerful one. Yeah. Now, you can argue that, but some of their warp charge costs have gone up. Actually, it's not the case. A lot of them have already gone down or stayed the same. So this is a net gain for the most part.
It's pretty economical. Yeah. And you've got full damage smites here.
Full damage smite. And that, it really stacks up with the smites. You are reliably getting off 3, if not 4 smites. And that's before all your other stuff, which can buff it up. So it's really nice. In addition to that, any of your Arcana Astartes or Zangor units get a 5-up invulnerable save. Now, for the most part, that was kind of already their shtick.
Yes. But
it works on vehicles.
Yeah. And that's quite interesting.
Yeah, it actually makes things like rhinos, even the humble predator, land raiders.
Kind of interesting.
Kind of interesting.
Hellbrutes?
Yeah, even the cheeky little Hellbrute, because most of those vehicles, barring the Land Raider, will have a 3-up save. So against the minute that you come up against AP3, which is one of the more common AP types of anti-tank, you're still getting a 5-up save, which is pretty good. And as we've seen, when you've got mass 5-up invulnerable saves on armor raiders looking at you, it can be really quite powerful.
Yeah, it really stacks up. Look, it's a 33% chance of saving.
You just outright ignore it. Just outright ignore it. So there's some really interesting builds. Now, it is a weird one because it's simultaneously not affecting half of your army. Like one half of your army rule is not affecting half of your army, and the other half is not affecting half of your army. Yeah. Because it's like plus 1 to cast with all those characters who already have a 5-up invuln. Although some of them incidentally don't anymore. So now they get that 5-up invuln from the Brotherhood of Sorcerers. Sure. So for the most part, I mean, it's pretty good.
People would argue that it's probably on paper better than the Grey Knights one, right?
I think on paper, yes, because the plus 1 to cast is always useful. Yeah, because you're always casting. 5-up invuln, maybe not always useful, because if you've got only AP2 to deal with, then it's the same as before. If you've got AP3 and above, or below, depending on what way you want it, then it is going to come up. Now, they don't have as much mortal wound defense, which ironically does make them suffer a little bit against enemy psychers, but that's okay because they're so arrogant that they're just like, well, we're better than you anyway. We'll just blow you up with our own mind bullets. Overall, I would say it is a very strong army trait.
Agreed.
Because it's always going to be useful. It's always going to be useful. And then on top of that, we have some fairly standard things that we're seeing for 9th edition codexes. Chief among them is Jealous Tyrant, so you can only have 1 Demon Prince per detachment.
It tends to be that way these days with these bigger characters.
But fine, so be it. You've also got Mere Mortals, so similar with Death Guard, you can only take 1 Bray unit, which is basically the troops Zangor, and one cultist unit for each rubric or Scarab occult unit that you have.
No Zangor spam.
No Zangor spam. Again, I'm not sure if it's the way to go about it in comparison to, say, Death Guard, where you go most competitive builds, you go, I'll take 3 units of 10 Poxwalkers and then Terminators.
Yeah.
There is an argument that you do that with Thousand Sons. However, I think you're giving up a fair bit when you do so. We'll be covering that in a later video over on demand when we talk about our units.
We've got top 5 units and top 5 power combinations.
Yes, so go and check those out.
Deep dive for this codex.
Yes. So that, again, is kind of, it's neither here nor there, but it does restrict you a little bit. But I mean, I think you're giving up quite a lot by wanting to run those sorts of lists. And part of the reason why you would want to maybe take some of the other fun stuff is because you have OBSEC on your Bray units.
Yep.
So at least they get that. Your cultists don't, fine. They are but, you know, chaff.
Mere mortals.
Your rubrics get it. Your Scarab Occult Terminators get it.
Now this is
that's huge.
That's a huge little change, because the Grey Knight Terminators, which are like the light mirror, you're the dark, they have OBSEC, but only the troops versions, obviously.
Yeah. But I only have
Why
elite
are you
versions.
getting OBSEC?
Well, I only have elite Terminators. And also, there's like 10 units to choose from in this book.
Yeah, it's a small book, really.
It is a small book. It is a small book.
There isn't a vast range for the Thousand Sons.
Yeah. We're not talking about Forge World stuff in here, guys, because it kind of muddies the waters a little bit when you're doing a Codex review to start talking about Forge World stuff. But yeah, from the Codex itself, it makes total sense. And also because they are the elite of the elite. Yeah. And being basically soulless automata, like the sorcerer is telling them, hold this point, and they just go.
Yeah.
Okay. You got it, boss.
Yeah.
So that's it. Those are the sort of the core army rules.
Okay.
You do expand upon them quite a bit with your cults and your pure faction rules, your Cabbalistic focuses and your Cabbalistic rituals, which we'll be touching on in just a moment, because that's when it gets real spicy. So let's talk pure Thousand Sons rules. So much like we've been seeing with things like combat doctrines, or things like with the Grey Knights where you've got your tides, stuff like your Necrons with your command protocols.
If everything has the same keyword.
If everything has the same keyword, excluding unaligned units.
Servitors. You don't have any underlined units?
Well, no, I mean, it's like if you take a fortification or something.
Yeah, right, something like that.
If everyone has the Thousand Sons keyword, you become a cabal of sorcerers. And essentially, at the start of each of your psychic phases, you generate a number of cabal points based on what you have in your army, with Magnus generating the most and lowly aspiring sorcerers generating the least. They all pull together, and any that you don't spend at the end of the psychic phase are gone forever until the next psychic phase, and then you do the process again.
So you regenerate them every phase, every psychic phase.
Yes.
And obviously you'll just tally up the amount of psychic units which contribute to this pool.
Basically.
And you have a pool of power.
Yep, a pool of power. And there's ways to add in a few more extra dice. It's not just based on the models that you have in there. There's like a Warlord trait that adds one. There's a Infernal Pact which adds one. There's I don't think there's relics which add some, but there's varying ways to get more. Stratagems that combo with stuff.
So what do they do? What can you spend this pool on?
They do indeed. Well, incidentally, there are 9 rituals that you can conduct in
favorite number.
And they all do varying things, and they range from 3 to 9 points to spend. So they can get quite pricey quite quick. You can only do 1 Cabbalistic ritual on each Psyker unit. Cool. It only affects Psykers because it's in the Psychic phase.
So stack buffs up on a single unit?
Only if you have a particular Warlord trait.
Okay.
And then you can do an additional one.
So there are some ways to break the system.
There are some ways to break the system, and yeah, you can do some real gnarly stuff with it. They range from things like getting +1 to cast, getting +2 to cast, using someone else's line of sight, although still casting it from you, but being able to smite through a wall.
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool, right? Yeah. Adding 6 inches to your range. Now, bear in mind as well that these all affect psychic actions. So if you're doing like psychic action type secondaries, you can use things like...
For a +2 to cast.
For a +2 to cast. That's like, I really need that psychic action to go off, I'm going to cast it. Nice. Things like mental interrogation, where you've got to be 24 inches away to get... and then you like pick the brain of the enemy character. Oh, but they're a psychic, they could deny it. I'll be 30 inches away, and then you can't. Some cheeky stuff. It's some cheeky stuff you can do. You then get some real nasty stuff and some real good utility stuff. There's ways to you gain a command point as a psychic action, but you've got ways to do a psychic action and a psychic power, so you're not giving up too much. And remember that these can be done by any psyker. So you go, that unit at the back, their power isn't going to be in range, or it's like a mortal wound dealing power, or I was only going to cast a smite with them. I'll get a command point.
Yep.
You can inflict an additional D3 mortal wounds on a unit that you've inflicted D3 mortal wounds to.
How many dice?
Only
is that?
4.
4. So 4. And what's the sort of average pool number, do you think, of?
Well, I generally tend to aim for anywhere between 16 and 19.
So it's quite a lot.
You can get quite a lot.
So chucking a cheeky 4 dice for an extra D3 mortal wounds isn't really a big deal.
It's not a big deal.
It sounds pretty powerful.
Yeah, because essentially your Magnus gives you 4, because he's the big dad. Yeah. Ahriman, Exalted Sorcerers, and Thousand Sons give you 3 each.
Very nice.
Your basic Scarab Occult Sorcerers, Aspiring Sorcerers, and your Shamans give you 1 each. Yep. And then your like your mid-level characters, so like your basic Sorcerer, your Infernal Masters give you 2.
Okay.
There's Warlord traits to give you an extra 1. Icons of Flame on the rubrics give you an extra 1.
So you take that.
Yeah, there's stratagems that can work with things like Mutilative Vortex Peaks where you generate an extra D3.
Yep.
So you can really stack them up. Okay. And because they're not wasted, but because at the end of the phase, if you don't have any left, you don't have to worry about keeping track of them. So as far as resource sort of tracking goes, it's fairly simple. Now, there's a few of mine, or there's a few which I look at which are really quite nice. Cabbalistic Focus. It is one of the pricey ones. It's 8, but you cannot deny it.
That's huge.
I use it on a power. If I cast the power, no deny.
Just goes off.
Yep.
So you
but I've got Scorn of Sorcery. Don't care.
Wow. So nothing can be done to stop that power. If you have those 8 dice to hand.
Yep. And I get that power off. That's a really clutch power. Like if I get Warp Time off, but I only cast it on the bare minimum. And you've got like Eldrad near, but nah.
You just
not
use
today, Eldrad.
8 dice.
I need that power to go off, and it will happen. Which, incidentally, is another one called Pact from Beyond, which is only 7, and that one goes off on your minimum required warp charge value. Now, here's the thing: that's on the minimum required warp charge value, which, according to the book, will be, say, let's pick a power at random, and that will be Desecration of Worlds. Warp charge value is 7, so it goes off on a 7.
Yeah.
You get a +1 to cast.
So it goes off on an 8.
It goes off on an 8. So it's actually better than your minimum warp charge value.
Oh dear. That's actually really powerful. I mean, they should be powerful in the psychic phase. So it makes
they
sense.
should be. And then you can get some... There's another one which is a bit tricky to use, Psychic Maelstrom, which is essentially a psyker can attempt to manifest a Witchfire power, specifically Witchfire powers, that another psyker has already manifested or attempted to manifest that phase. They can cast that power even though it's already been cast, and even if they didn't know that power.
Wow.
So when you've got something like Tzeentch's Firestorm, which is a low warp charge, only 6, and does mortal, that you roll 9 dice, and for each 6 you do a mortal wound to an enemy unit within 18, and you can target, and if you cast it on an unmodified specifically 9 or more, goes off on 5s. Yeah. You can just go, you know what, for 8 Cabal points, I'm going to roll 18 dice on that character. And for each 6, or maybe even 5, they take a mortal wound.
Yeah, it's pretty savage.
You can just be removing key targets. Yeah. So there's some real nice utility here. It's not the easiest system to use, I will admit that, because you've kind of got to account for your Cabal points, and as you lose units, you get less Cabal points.
So you've got to retally everything up every psychic phase. There's a bit of admin.
There's a little bit of admin, but it's not too difficult.
In a similar way to Sisters and their Miracle Die, like they've got to roll every turn.
But because this is refreshed every psychic phase, you don't need to be like, oh, what have I got in my pool for, like, what have I got planning going forward? You just go, right, this is what I've got. Cool. These are the 9 that I can work with. There is a little bit of sort of, thinking about stuff, and you can account for positioning, like, especially with like extra ranges to powers, they're nice in a pinch. Yeah. Generally, you're going to look towards things like a +1 to cast. These stack with your already existing pluses to cast. This will enable you to get super smites off really easily with this army.
Which is pretty scary.
And because a lot of these are done after the test.
Yeah, so you know that, if I add +2, I'm going to be 11+.
Yeah.
D6 mortal.
I'm going to cast a smite, I rolled a 9. Well, I already get +1. I'll spend 5 Cabal points and add another 1. We're now talking super smite time. It's a really good, flexible ability. It will take a little bit of getting used to, but the options that it opens are
So is that the super doctrine then?
That's their super doctrine, though.
Okay.
That is their super doctrine.
There's a lot of utility there.
Yeah.
It's very flavorful, very fluffy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I'd also say right off the bat, it's very, very powerful, right?
Yeah. If you can use it well and you can manipulate it and you use the right stuff at the right time, you're going to cause some real headaches for people.
So, Chef, if I was to talk to you about the cults.
The cults of the Legion.
The 9 cults.
The 9 cults of Magnus.
What would you talk to me about in return? These are your chapter tactics, if you will. But they, a bit like the Grey Knights, don't sort of work in the traditional sub-faction way.
Yeah, they don't give you like an extra rule that a chapter tactic would, because that's kind of what your Brotherhood of Sorcerers is. But it's a really good one. Effectively, what the cults of the Legion do is they give you everyone in that detachment, as long as they all share the same great cult, of which Zangor do not have the great cult keyword. No. Nor does Ahriman, nor does Magnus, but they don't take that away.
Yeah.
Fine. But it does mean that there's certain things that can't benefit from them, which is fine. But essentially, every one of the great cults knows a power just off the bat.
Yep.
And you also get access to a warlord trait and to a new relic. Okay. You don't get a stratagem.
Yep.
Fine.
Sure.
You can kind of get over it. There was one other thing that I also forgot to mention under the main rules, but it kind of ties in with your cults of the Legion because you need the army to be battle forged, essentially. You get your Legion command stuff. So these are like your chapter command upgrades. You can pay points to upgrade things. There's some nifty things you can do with that. But for the most part, they're kind of either stat boosts or letting you cast an extra
We'll go over some of those in the power combinations.
Yeah, there's a few really pretty cool things you can do. But the cults, so there's 9 cults. We'll run through them fairly quickly and kind of discuss, some of the real standouts, sort of as and when they come up. So you've got Cult of Mutation. Your psychic power is Warp Reality. You pick a terrain feature that's visible within 24. Pick an enemy unit within 3 inches of that terrain feature, and they're half movement and -1 to advance and charge rolls.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really powerful.
It's pretty nice. It's only warp charge 6, so 5. What I'll do is, as I'm going through this, I'll read you out the actual warp charge, and then just remember, it's actually, you get a +1 to cast, remember? So that's that. The Warlord trait and the relics are not so good, unfortunately. The Warlord trait is melee hits on a hit roll of a 6, do a mortal wound in addition to other damage. Weirdly, it's on a hit rather than a wound.
Strange.
Fine.
And people like Zangor can't benefit from this because they don't get the cults.
It's on your Warlord only.
Oh, it's on the Warlord only.
If it was on an aura, actually it would be phenomenally good. Because then that would actually make your rubrics half decent, or at least, potentially half decent in combat. As it is, because it's on your Warlord, you're generally only looking at like 6 attacks at best. And then you've got your Sorcerer's Arcana is Exalted Mutation, which adds 1 to the strength, toughness, and attacks characteristics of the bearer. Now, this would be amazing if you could take it on anyone that wasn't a basic sorcerer.
Right.
And here's the problem. It says sorcerer model only. Well, Exalted Sorcerers do not have the sorcerer keyword. They are Exalted Sorcerers.
Exalted Sorcerers, yeah.
So it's literally making your medium level characters a bit better in melee, where they don't want to be. It's a bit poo.
Yeah, don't really care.
Now, if you could go +1 strength, toughness, and attacks on a demon prince, sign me up. But they thought about that, and they went, no, that's probably too much. So that's mutation. You then got Cult of Prophecy. Divine the Future is their power. So a warp charge 6, when you manifest it, you immediately roll. You basically get a miracle dice.
Okay.
You roll a d6, and then you can use it to replace a hit, wound, advance, charge, psychic test, deny, or morale test for a Cult of Prophecy unit in your army. And this is where
not damage roll.
Not damage roll. Okay. No. Fine. This is where it gets a bit key though, is because Cult of Prophecy unit, no Bray units, no Zangor units. Now, being able to do that on a psychic test, however, is pretty good because you're replacing a single dice roll. So you go, I rolled a 5 and a 2. Just make that to a 6. Boom. Super smite time. It's a good power. It's nice utility. Your Warlord trait is guided by the Whispers. Once a turn, basically after you've been selected as a charge, you can just go move 6 inches.
Yeah, that's a very powerful ability.
That's very nice. It's only once per turn, so if you've got multi-charges and someone's really close on you, you're not going to be able to do much, but it's good. And incidentally, it doesn't say that they can't select another target.
Okay.
So their charge could potentially be wasted. That might get FAQ'd though.
Yeah, because other abilities that we've seen like that do allow you to choose a different target.
So don't start playing it like that and then get really surprised when an FAQ drops in a few weeks. The Sorcerous Arcana, again, it's one of those ones that could be really good, but you have to you've got to be careful with how it's done. So you select one prophecy core or character unit within 6, and then every time they shoot or fight until your next command phase, you can reroll 1 hit, 1 wound, and 1 damage roll when resolving that unit's attack.
Nice.
Which is good, but generally, because it's core or character, you're looking at D3 damage. Fine. It's okay. It's okay. I mean, to be fair, even if you said you took that on a character like a sorcerer and they were doing that on themselves every turn, reroll a hit, wound, and damage roll in combat. It's not shabby.
It's not shabby, no.
It's not shabby. There's just, it's a tricky relic to use super efficiently because of the nature of the units you're doing on. Cult of Time. The Time Flux. Nice and simple power. Warp Charge 6. A Cult of Time infantry unit within 6. Bring a model back.
Nice.
Great on rubrics, even better on Scarab Occult Terminators.
Yep, huge on Scarab Occult
Bring back a Scarab Occult Terminator, that can be pretty massive.
What's the warp charge? 6?
6.
Yeah, nice.
Easy to cast.
Yeah.
Then you've got Immaterial Echo, which is the Warlord trait. If the Warlord manifests a psychic power with a psychic test result of a 9+, note this does not say unmodified.
Yeah.
So effectively an 8+, and that's before you start doing Cabbalistic Rituals. The Warlord can attempt to manifest 1 additional psychic power that phase, and when attempting to manifest that additional psychic power, it can never be denied.
Wow.
Which is nice.
That's huge.
Yeah, you can only do that once per phase, however.
Yeah, okay.
But it effectively...
Again, ways to because you could use that, and then you could use your Cabal points to do the another, so you could effectively get 2 auto cast powers a turn, which is pretty nice.
It can be pretty significant. Okay. And the Sorcerous Arcana is Hourglass of Manat. The first time they're destroyed, at the end of the phase, they set up with D3 wounds more than 1 inch away from enemy models automatically.
Nice. Okay, that's very strong. Demon Prince can have
that? Demon Prince, yeah.
Okay.
That's what you do. Because it's end of the phase, you kill them in the fight phase. Okay, I don't get to attack, but next turn, I'm going to be, because you're an inch away, you're not falling back, so you can move, you can
more
fight.
psychic powers, fight, etc.
Cult of Scheming is a really good one. Seeded strategy, bit on the pricey side, Warp Charge 7, but a friendly Cult of Scheming core unit, fine, within 24 inches, can fall back, shoot, and charge.
Nice, yeah.
Cannot cast.
No, but still.
But you just cast it on yourself,
the
right?
Flexibility.
Or you cast before, they're eligible to shoot and declare a charge in a turn which they fell back. So that unit would need to have fallen back before you cast it, so they're not casting it on themselves. Sorry, I misread that.
Sure.
But on core, I'll do that on Hellbrute.
Yeah.
Warlord trait's really good. It's only a 3-inch aura, but it gives obsec to all Cult of Scheming units.
Nice. Within
3 inches, and they count as 2 models if they already have obsec.
Massive.
2 model scarabs, obsec characters, obsec land raiders, which is hilarious, because they get the cult keyword.
Yeah.
That's why it's only 3 inches. And then the Sorcerer's Arcana, another really, really good one. You've got to use it well. Jaquifel's Theorem. Once per battle in any phase, if you're on the battlefield, you can use it. And then until the end of the phase, or until you pick a stratagem and you make it 0 CP for 1 phase.
That's really good.
But you have to use it that phase. So you can't be like, at the beginning of the game, I'm going to pick this one and then use it when it comes up. So you kind of got to preempt stuff.
Yep.
But generally, you're going to go, yeah, that free CP stratagem to make my Terminators reduce damage by 1. Yeah, I'll do it in your first shooting phase and they're out in the open.
Yep, for free.
Bring it on.
Yep, savage.
It's a good all-round one, that one. Cult of Magic's pretty solid. Astral Blast is their power, Warp Charge 6. And this is the thing, you've got to remember all of your units that are Psychers know these powers.
Yeah.
So you've got really good flexibility on where and who to cast these with. The closest enemy unit within 12 takes D3 mortal wounds, and each other unit within 3 takes 1 mortal wound.
So it's a baby vortex.
It's a baby vortex of Doom. Okay. That's, it's for another basically smite that can also do some splash damage. It's really good. Warlord trait, Devastating Sorcery. Once per psychic phase, when you manifest Smite or another Witchfire power, you can reroll the psychic test.
Right.
It's fine. It's a free CP reroll on a Smite or a Witchfire power. It's only once per phase. Bear in mind, you're rerolling the whole test, so you could roll a 6 and a 1, but you need to cast on a 9. You've got to reroll both.
Sure.
It's okay.
Or you can just spend some Cabal points to add.
To just add it, yeah. And then their Arcana is Arcane Focus, and then this one is quite nice, because at the start of your Psychic phase, you select 1 Cult of Magic Psychic unit within 6 inches of the bearer until the end of the phase. Each time you would use a Cabbalistic Ritual on this unit, it costs 1 fewer Cabal dice. Now, you can't do it on Magnus,
right.
But Magnus's Warlord trait you can give to a generic one, which is Arrogance of Aeons, which gives you can do 2 Cabbalistic Rituals on the same unit.
Nice.
So if you do it on that character, or that character is carrying that arcane focus, he just does it on himself, so you can have 2 cheaper things each time. Yeah. He can really stack up some nasty buffs there.
Really good.
Cult of Knowledge, pick an enemy unit within 24, warp charge 6, empiric trespass. Cult of Knowledge units get reroll 1s to wound against it.
Okay.
It's Baby Doom.
Yeah. Not bad.
Fine. It's okay.
Little Lieutenant Aura.
Yeah, it's fine. Ardent Scholar is the Warlord trait. You can reroll psychic test rolls of 1.
Yep.
Fine. Helpful to avoid those pesky miscasts. And the Arcana is Incaladian's Cry, which is a super warp flame pistol. It's a warp flame pistol with strength 6 and AP 3.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
It's fine. Yeah. Like, Cult of Knowledge is okay. Yeah. It's all right. Cult of Change, Dismanifestation, spelled with a Y, so you know it's cool. Warp charge 6, select an enemy unit within 18 inches. No, doesn't need to be visible. Subtract 1 from leadership and attacks.
Oh, that's a nasty.
That's quite nice.
The attacks is pretty.
Yeah, the attacks is the key thing there, because you are generally at a weakness in melee.
Yeah.
Then your Warlord trait is Fickle Nature, reroll charge rolls, and you can shoot and charge in the turn in which you fell back.
Very nice.
Yeah, not bad.
Can't cast psychic powers, but...
Can't cast psychic powers. There is a relic which allows you to fall back and cast.
Nice.
But it is an Exalted Sorcerer relic only. So that can make a really mobile character that you just can't pin down. Sure. More on that in a combo video. Their Sorceress Arcana is Capricious Crest. So once per battle round, fine. When a psychic test is taken for any model within 18 inches of the bearer, you can do one of the following. If it's from your army, you can turn a 1 into a 6.
Okay.
If it's from your enemy army, you can turn a 6 into a 1.
Oh, maximum jank.
Yeah! Oh. Now it's only once per battle round, so if you do it on yourself, then you're not debuffing your opponent. But there will be times where your opponent rolls that 1 and that 6 and you go, uh-oh!
Perils of the war.
Oh, sucks to be you! And it fails to cast. Oh no! Oh. Are you going to use a reroll? Okay then. Oh,
scream.
18-inch range, look, it's pretty good. It's not always effective, but even on yourself, it's useful to just go, oh, I don't want that perils on myself. Yeah. Turn that into a 6. Yeah. Or you go, oh, I rolled a 6 and a 1. I cast a smite, but oh, you know what? I'll take that super smite because I can just ignore the perils with a stratagem.
Yeah.
So lots of cheeky things you can do. Cult of Duplicity, this is my favourite. Sorcerer's Facade, this is the most expensive power. It's warp charge 8.
Okay.
But you pick a infantry or monster unit within 6 inches of the Psyker and you teleport them 9 inches away.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's
the Gate of Infinity.
It's Gate of Infinity, but you can do it on the Demon Prince or a Mutilith Vortex Beast.
Yeah, nasty.
Can't do it on Magnus because he's not Cult of Duplicity.
No. It's probably a good thing.
But because obviously that is a teleport, it's not a fallback, so you can still shoot and charge. So it's essentially the same as scheming. It's pulling that double duty to be able to fall back and shoot and charge. The advantage that one has is you can just take that 1 step away and then charge back in with like a unit of Terminators. Making a 9-inch charge is a bit more of an ask, but great for playing the mission. Warlord trait Master Misinformator, at the start of the first battle round, before the first turn begins, D3 units, except vehicles, can redeploy. Great. Anything that gives you redeploy is very golden. Again, I'm expecting to see an FAQ for this one because it doesn't give you that thing about saying you can put them into strategic reserves for free, like other similar traits do. So,
because I think the Grey Knights one does.
Grey Knights one does. I think the Stygies one does for AdMech.
I think Poison Tongue does.
Poison Tongue does. So expect to see that FAQ, guys. The Sorceress Arcana is a bit of a tricksy one. It's my kind of a relic because it's very stupid. It's the Perfidious Tome. In each of your command phases, you can read from the tome. If you're on the battlefield, on a 4+, you gain a command point. If you roll a 1, your opponent gets a command point.
Okay.
Now, no. It's just, no. You don't want to give your opponents command points. Cult of Manipulation is the last one. Psychic power is really weird. Attempted Possession, you pick 1 unit within 18 inches, they take a mortal wound. This can be on a character. If they're a Psyker, it is -2 to their Psychic tests until the start of your next Psychic phase.
Potentially horribly good.
Potentially amazing.
Depending on, obviously, who you're facing.
But it depends on who you face. The Warlord trait, you can never reroll hit, wounds, or damage rolls against Warlord.
Okay.
Can make some pretty janky Demon Princes.
Yeah, you can. Because there are some really good relics as well for them. Okay.
And then the Sorcerer's Arcana is Thoth's Mirror. Each time they're selected to fight, instead of fighting normally, you can select one enemy infantry unit, one enemy infantry model with a leadership characteristic of 9 or less that is in engagement range.
Yeah.
And basically, instead of you fighting, that enemy model fights its own unit.
So,
like, it's cute.
Yeah, yeah.
It's cute.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, if you get some amazing beat stick to fight.
But the leadership 9.
Yeah.
Most characters, it's got to be, I mean, leadership 9 or below, admittedly, and it's infantry only. Yeah. So, you know, you can't have a knight punch himself in the face.
That would be ludicrous.
You could do it on like a Grandmaster.
Yeah.
On foot.
Yeah.
You know, you could do it on a war boss. Like, there's some fun things that you can do because they attack their own unit, and models are themselves their own units.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do it on like a sergeant.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's nothing spectacular, but it's fine. Those are the cults. Overall, I would say duplicity and scheming are probably your best ones. Okay. But magic has its use.
Yeah.
Just because then you get extra mortal wound powers, and that's where the bulk of your damage is.
And you've got 9 of them to choose from, which is a great.
There's some good debuffs in there. There's some good relics in there. They're sort of sprinkled around. So you have some good choices.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like there isn't an automatic winner in there.
Sure.
There are some which are...
Your automatic winner is already the Cabal pool.
Yeah. You get that already. You don't need much more.
Okay, so those are your cults. Those are your chapter tactics. Next, I think it's important to go over some statistic changes because, let's face it, there have been some pretty important ones.
It's about damn time.
So, Chef, if I was to ask you how you feel about Rubricae having 1 wound, what would you say?
Please don't.
Is it still too close?
Still too soon, even though we've got 2 wounds at last.
You do. And Scarab Occult Terminators?
Yep, they're 3 wounds now. Yep, they've received...
What's your attack situation like?
Yep, Hateful Assault is no longer a thing. It's baked in, so everyone's got an extra attack. Now, your characters have not received an extra wound.
Right.
But that's fitting with the Space Marine thing. But they have all received the extra attack for Shock Assault, Hateful Assault, whatever you want to call it. So that's all nice bonuses. There's a few other sort of like esoteric sort of stat changes. The Prosperine Capeshes on your Scarab Occult Terminators are now damage 2. Yay. It gives you a combat unit.
Yeah, because the Thousand Sons really need that. And I always felt that the Scarab Occult Terminators were kind of they're a bit of a wet noodle unit in terms of their combat output. They weren't terrible, but just not quite as good as I would have expected.
Damage 2 is very nice. Yeah. We do exist in an era where there's a lot of -1 damage out there.
Correct.
But fine.
Yeah. That's
So you're exactly the same as you were against them anyway.
Yeah.
But you're better against stuff that doesn't.
And you're still kicking out mortal wounds, which damage reduction you don't do nothing.
You don't care.
So, you know.
So that's good. Some weapons have received some buffs. So like your warp bolters and your warp flamers are the same.
Yeah.
Your heavy warp, I mean, you know, they're now 12-inch range.
Is the Soul Reaper cannon actually any good now?
I mean, it's 5 shots now, and it's strength 6, and it's -3. So it's received an extra shot and an extra strength. It's damage 1.
And it's still heavy?
Still heavy, but you don't care about heavy.
Yeah, true.
You don't care about heavy.
So, I mean...
The thing is, on a Marine, it's it's 10 points on a Marine. I'm not sure how I feel about it on a Marine. On a Scarab Occult Terminator, it's only 5 points. I'll take that upgrade.
Yeah, over your combi bolter.
You are getting your malicious volleys, but essentially for 5 points, you're getting an extra shot, an extra AP, an extra strength of your storm bolter.
Yeah, no, you would take it on a Terminator, I think, but I don't think you'd take it on Rubricae. Not when you could just have more warp bolters.
Yeah, the thing is at 10 points on your Rubricae. Now you can take them in units of 5 now with the Soul Reaper, because before it was one.
Before they made you take it in.
It was 1 unit of 10. Now it's
so annoying.
Now it's 1 per unit. Fine. So you can take 1 in a unit of 5.
One in the box.
There's 1 in the box, right? So I don't have an issue.
At
least you can have that in a unit of 5. Yeah. So that.
Are there any stratagems to make them better?
So there is a stratagem. It's a really weird one. It's called Soul Reap, which sounds cool. It's 1 CP, which is cool. Basically, you make 2 attack rolls instead of 1, provided that you're shooting at a unit with 11 or more models.
Okay.
I mean, it's still right.
But again, I'd still rather have it on a Terminator.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. If you're running a 10-man unit of Terminators, you've got 2 of them in there.
Yeah,
okay, all of a sudden you go, here's my 24 shots.
Yeah, that's
rinsing through a horde.
That's quite interesting.
For 1 CP, it's not bad.
Okay. What other stat changes?
So, I mean, it's not necessarily a stat change as such, but your rubrics and your scarabs auto-pass morale now, just straight up.
Which is actually really underestimated.
Really powerful. Really powerful.
Because, you know,
the amount
it only takes
times,
one left alive.
Look, the amount of times where I've lost like 3 Scarab Occult Terminators to morale.
Which is horrific.
And you just go, great, it's 120 points because I couldn't roll above a 1.
And they're OBSEC now. So the thing is, the unit has to be wiped. You've got to kill them off the objective.
Or you've got to contest that objective with your own OBSEC, which, depending on what your OBSEC is, they're not fighting off a unit of Scarab Occults. No. So that's good. Your Hellfire Missile Rack's got an extra 12-inch range. They're 36 now. They're still the same otherwise. Yep. Your 4 staffs are the same. Again, not necessarily a stat change, but your All Is Dust only affects armor saves now. Sure. Which is fine, because otherwise there's easy ways to get that free up invan. They could have had it so that it does affect invan saves up to a maximum of 4+, because there is a lot of AP2 weaponry out there at the moment, and all of a sudden you go, here's my 5+ invan. Yep. Okay. Yep. I'm supposed to not care about these damage 1 weapons. Oh, but because they've got good AP, I do care. Sure. It's a bit of a pain, but I'll get over it. All Is Dust is still great. It's still really good.
Because the majority of anti-infantry weaponry
are generally damage 1 and AP 1.
You're rocking
3-ups or 2-ups, and you're probably in cover.
Which is amazing.
So it's not the end of the world. Yeah.
I mean, the Grey Knight Stormbolters don't like that All Is Dust.
No, not at all.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got great. I got 2-up saves, and I got 2 wounds. You win me on 4s. Yeah. You know, so it's fine. It's really not the end of the world. Your Zangor, they got hit pretty hard. They're no longer core. Fine. Same number of attacks, same AP, but weapon skill 4 now.
Can still be buffed with the Brace Shaman though. +1 to hit.
+1 to hit. Yeah. But now they're at best going to be weapon skill 3. Yeah. They're not getting built-in rerolls.
But they're supposed to be. I mean, you know,
they're supposed to be chaff.
They're supposed to be chaff, and like it is a 1,000 Suns army.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. You shouldn't. I wouldn't want and this is and it's again why like the mere mortal stuff isn't a deal breaker for me. Where it's like, you can't take more goats than you can Scarab Occults and Ruby. You shouldn't.
Yeah, because you're supposed to be playing thousands.
Frankly, I think that it needs to be reworded as you just can't take them in the same slot. Because and same with Death Guard. It's a Death Guard army. They should have Plague Marines. Yeah. They should have Plague Marines. Yeah. I hate seeing a Death Guard army without Plague Marines. Yeah. Because it just doesn't feel right. Same with Thousand Suns. It wouldn't feel right to not.
I mean, there were some cool Shambling Hordes themed lists.
Yeah, like with Typhus, leading the hordes and stuff.
100.
But you should still have some play. Typhus wouldn't be hanging out with just zombies.
No, Typhus wouldn't. No.
Although I mean, to be fair, he would be hanging out with Terminators because he's a big chunky lad.
It's Typhus.
Yeah. So I don't have a massive issue with the downgrade because they just fill a different role now, and they're still pretty cheap at 7. I mean, 7 points for a toughness 4 model with a 5+ invan.
It is cheap, and
they can absorb a lot of firepower.
To have some chaff. It is good to have some chaff screening because ultimately you are still a fairly elite army, right?
Yeah.
So having the ability to absorb opponents' charges and so forth is not necessarily a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. So is that pretty much the stat changes?
The other ones are sort of again look at you because you're looking at the Death Guard because they were the first of the Chaos Codexes, and you can see a theme here with all the demon engines going up to weapon skill, ballistic skill 3. Huzzah! Especially because you're not getting the rerolls anymore. Yeah. Although incidentally there are ways to give them buffs thanks to because they have the cults keywords, so that's nice. Same with the Mutilative Vortex Beast. He's now much better in terms of his hitting ability and his attacks.
So more reliable demon engines.
Yeah, basically your big stuff is more reliable, and your little stuff has had some tweaks.
Helldrake, any good?
Yeah, Helldrake's pretty decent now. He's actually a proper flyer.
Yeah.
He can hover,
which is
up in the air and go down.
Actually, a nerf in a way because of 9th edition and the flyer battlefield role.
That's true.
But having said that, there are still places for flyers.
Yeah, and the Baleflame is great. 2d3, 18-inch range, strength 6 -2 damage 2. Yeah. He's got 5 attacks. I mean, 5 attacks at weapon skill. Yeah, weapon skill 3, strength 7 -2 damage 2, damage 4 against aircraft. Yeah. Again, it's aircraft. It depends how many you see. I mean, there's AdMech aircraft that are doing the rounds at the moment.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There are some armies which,
Yeah, there's some talk of like Orc aircraft, like armadas happening.
Some people are still keen on triple Void Raven bomber for
Drukhari. Yeah, so you know, like I think they absolutely have that. This is the thing. Despite some of the changes and despite the general smallness of the sort of unit selection, everything is generally fairly useful. Like even things like the Predators and like the Vindicators, they've not changed in stats. They're identical to the Space Marine stuff, but having a 5-up invuln actually gives them more use than those other armies might find with them. And because you don't actually have a lot of options, that's a good thing. Because otherwise you'd be looking at it going, well, here's my army. It's the same as everyone else's. I feel like Harlequins. But yeah, stats-wise, it's only good things, really, barring a couple of nerfs to your Zangor, but they're goat boys. Like you shouldn't care too much about them.
Okay, so those are the stat changes. We've got one last topic, a hot topic for these top 5 changes to the Thousand Sons, and that is points changes. So if you're talking points, Mr. Chef, what are the key points changes, good or bad, in this 9th Age book?
Well, as you can imagine, with stat boosts come points boosts. It's not massively significant. Your rubrics have gone up to 21 points. Cool. They were 18, I think.
Yeah, but when you're netting +1 wounds,
the extra wounds and an extra attack,
still retaining all his dust,
and getting auto pass morale for that, and full smite.
I would argue that's
pretty good.
That's worth 21 points.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Your Scarab Occults came out like bandits. +1 wound, +1 attack, auto pass morale, cheaper heavy weapons, better heavy weapons, full smite, damage 2, extra 2 points. Boom.
Yeah.
40 points. Yeah. Oh, and obsec. Sorry, I forgot the obsec.
Magic.
Amazing.
Magic.
Absolutely amazing.
Absolutely.
The only downside that I see with that is I can envision them becoming very much like competitive Death Guard, where you just go, I'm never going to take my basic power armor. I'll take Terminators. I'll take Terminators and I'll fill my slot with Braze.
The only challenge to that is because you've got this amazing synergy with the Sorcerer's Cabal points.
Yeah.
They are ultimately still more expensive than your rubrics. And your rubrics can take things like Banner of the Refining Flame so that you can get the extra...
Oh, the Icon of Flame.
The Icon, sorry.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I did forget to mention that.
I'm thinking Grey Knights, the Icon of Flame.
Yeah, so the Icon of Flame gives you an additional Cabal.
Because can the Terminators take Icon of Flame? See, so there are...
So they're only ever going to generate 1 for you, whereas your rubrics could generate 2.
So
it's only 10 points.
Kind of depends.
Yeah,
yes, I agree the Terminators are just that.
And this is why I was sort of saying, you know, like, I can't see you wanting to go 0 rubrics because of that. Your Braze are 7 points now. I think I already mentioned that. They're good for their cheapness. The Exalted Sorcerers are pretty much the same. I think they've gone up by like 5 or 10 points. Araman did go up a lot. He went from, I think, 140 to 180.
Can cast 3?
He can cast 3, he can deny 3. He re-rolls psychic tests. Okay. And he's still flat damage free. You know, so I mean, he's still great. The issue is you go, he's 180 points.
Yeah.
An Exalted Sorcerer on disc is 125 points.
Sure.
It's a big jump.
Yep.
You're casting an extra 1.
Yeah.
You're denying an extra 2, which is a bit more niche. You're becoming flat damage free instead of damage D free. And you're re-roll, which is good, but you're still only AP 1.
Sure.
And you're re-rolling psychic tests. Is that worth 55 points? That's him on disc at 180.
And doesn't he give 4 Cabal points as well?
He gives 3. If he gave 4, I'd be like, okay.
And Magnus gives 4.
Magnus is the only one that gives 4.
I'd say he's. I mean, he's.
He's good.
He's good.
He's got re-roll psychic tests you cannot knock.
No,
especially because he's casting 3.
I would argue that he is worth it. I mean,
I need to have a play.
Drago's 180 as well.
Yeah.
You know, and
Drago is far more of a beat stick.
Drago is far more of a beat stick, but he's not casting 3 powers with re-roll psychic tests.
No.
He's only casting 2.
No.
Because you're denying 3 as well.
3, yeah.
And you're fast, you're on your disc.
Yeah, that's assuming that he's on a disc. Like, he's good, he is good.
Yeah.
I'd need to do a little bit of sort of efficiency math hammering to see if he's really worth it.
All right, let's talk about the Magnus in the room.
Like the big daddy, the guy who got better and cheaper. He's 450 points. Now, I say he got better. Now, some of you are probably going, but he can't warp time anymore. He can't get a free up invuln anymore. No, not many things are getting 3 up in buns.
He's reducing damage?
He's reducing damage by 1.
That's already a massive thing.
Yeah, I mean,
how good damage reduction is.
Look, he already has a 4 up in bun.
Yeah.
So that, because you know you can't give him the 3 up, fine.
Yeah. Obviously, we're talking about his points. We're going to him in the the top 5 data.
There's a lot of stuff going on with Magnus. Now he's gained like the chapter master thing.
Yeah.
He never perils anymore. Yeah. He already has a 4 up in bun.
His stats are the same as they used to be.
His stats are the same. I mean, he's gotten the benefit of the shock assault baked in. So he's 8 attacks base now, 7 to 6, and his movement goes from 16 to 14 to 12. So even if you bring him to his bottom profile, he is moving 12 inches with 6 attacks at strength 16 minus 4 damage free.
Yeah, I mean, it's brutal.
Like, you have to kill him.
And he's 450 points?
450 points. He casts free. He knows free. He has to be a warlord. But as your warlord, he gets free warlord traits, right? So one of them is reduced damage by 1. Another one is he benefits from the Cabal, an additional Cabal ritual, and can reroll deny checks.
Ow.
Bearing in mind that he can innately reroll psychic tests, and he adds 1 to psychic and denies, or 2 if he's got 10 or more remaining. So, you want to cast against Magnus and he's healthy boy. Cool, he's rerolling with a +2 to deny. That means that he's always, because of Brotherhood of Sorcerers, he's always getting +2 to cast, re-rolling, before Cabbalistic Rituals. His other warlord trait, his third one, and this is my favourite, he knows every power. He knows all 18 powers from the 2 disciplines that you have.
Well, that's it.
So he has unparalleled flexibility.
For 450 points.
He's great at 450 points.
Him versus Mortarion, what's up?
If you...
Got to do the game.
I mean, that's coming
up. Say no more.
No, we've not done the game yet. It will happen. However, I am... Unless Magnus is shot off the board, he will take Mortarion. Because he'll just go, there's a bazillion mortal wounds, and now I'll go finish you off in combat. He's great at 450. The Demon Engines went up slightly to account for the fact that they have better weapon skill. Fine. Your Predators and your sort of things are about the same. And yeah, like
that's your whole army.
Yeah, that's basically the army. Yeah, yeah. So most like the characters have mostly stayed the same, barring like a few points adjustments. Your infantry have gone up or down in the case of the Zangor, and your vehicles have remained roughly the same. So not much has changed. You've just gotten better.
That's a win-win.
Yeah.
So overall, you happy with the book?
Overall, I'm very happy with the book. Is it a competitive book for those of you that are competitively minded?
Is it up there with Abmech, with Drukhari?
No.
No?
Is that a bad thing? No. Because those books are outliers, everyone. None of the books should be like that. Are they Death Guard level, Sisters level, Orcs level? Yeah.
Which are all really strong.
Which are all really strong books. There will be times, there will be armies that they will struggle against.
Yeah.
Oh no. A weakness that you have to make up with strategic acumen. What a shame. Oh no.
This is what all of the army should have, right?
Right? And I've not gone into Forge World, and there is some stuff with Forge World that you can do to make them particularly nasty, especially with some of the strategies that you have access to. Overall, I'm very happy with the book. It's a solid book. It's got good options. Yes, it's unfortunately a product of its old version, which is it's pretty limited in its unit choices, and it's not received an Orc revamp or a Necron revamp.
No new model range.
Which is a shame. Because there's some real missed opportunity. I'd love to see some like Psychic Asarian style dreadnoughts. I can't remember what they're called from Heresy, but they're the Blade Masters. With the twin force swords. Like they could have done some really cool stuff. Alas, they haven't. But hey, who knows what may yet come. For now, what we've got is a solid book with lots of tricks and can now hold its own again. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to bringing them out a bit more.
Good, because you're going to be running them in the league, I hear.
You damn right. Or because they're, I should probably say you damned right.
You damned right. Well, look, that's been our top 5 changes to Codex 1000 Sons.
Big changes.
Yeah, big changes too. If you want to come join us over on demand on our website, www.tabletoptactics.tv, we have 2 more videos dropping. The top 5 power combos in this book, where we go over some relics and stratagems and some unique warlord traits and power combos. Unlimited power. And our top 5 new unit picks. So, until next time, I've been Lawrence, this has been Mike. We'll see you soon.